Good morning. Today we are going to start the chapter number 19, Getting Ready for Adventures. Getting Ready for Adventures. So this is the chapter about adventures and imagination. Adventure means when we are very much excited to do anything, and imagination means our thinking. So this chapter is an extract from Miguel de Cervantes' great novel about Don Quixote. The eccentric gentleman who fancied himself as a knight. Knight means warrior. He loved reading stories about knights, chivalry, princes, magicians, enchanted castles, etc. In fact, he was so absorbed in these fantasies that he slowly started to lose touch with reality and began to believe that he was one of these fiction heroes. Means all the time the person was reading about the princes, magicians, or castles, so he started thinking that he was also one of them. He was also a hero, and this fiction is about the same. Okay, so let us start. Many years ago, there lived in Spain a very old-fashioned gentleman who was more than 50 years of age and quite tall and slender. Means we are talking about a gentleman who lived in Spain, who was old-fashioned and the age was more than 50, tall and slender. His face was thin and his nose was long and his hair was turning grey. So it is the appearance of the man: thin face, long nose and hair grey. Turning grey means going to be grey. He had many odd ways and did so many strange things. He was called the good Mr. Quizina. In the hallway of his old-fashioned house, a short rusty sword was always hanging. The leaning against the wall were a rusty lane and a big rawhide shield. These weapons had belonged to his great-grandfather. So, we are talking that in the hallway of the old-fashioned house, a short and rusty sword was always hanging. Means in his house, the sword was hanging, and leaning against the wall were a rusty lance and a big rawhide shield. These weapons had belonged to his great-grandfathers. Means these two weapons, they belong to his grandfather and then father, that is great-grandfather. Mr. Quixote spent almost all his time in reading stories of knights and their daring deeds on battlefields. So Quixote was busy in reading the stories about the battle and about the knights and how they spent their time by doing the daring deeds in the battlefields. One day he said to himself, "Why should I always be a plain farmer and sit here at home? Why may I not become a famous knight?" So one day he was talking to himself that I am always busy in doing the work of the field. Means I am working as a farmer. Then why can't I become a knight, a warrior? I will mount my noble horse and ride out into the world to seek adventures. So he decided to sit on his horse and to take a round in the world and to seek adventures, means to find out the adventures. The first thing he did was to clean up an armor that had belonged to his great grandfathers. So first of all, he made clean all those armor. Armor means the metal covering earlier worn to protect the body in battle. First of all, he decided that he will clean up the armor. Then he had been 4 ages lying forgotten in a corner. The armor were in the corner and they were lying there since ages, and therefore they have become faded. And so his first work was to clean all those things. He polished it with great care and cut some pieces of pasteboard to supply the missing parts. So first of all, he polished the armor with a great care and cut pieces of pasteboard to supply the missing parts. Means some parts were missing, so he decided to paste some missing part with the help of the cardboard. He painted them to look like steel, and he painted them with grey color, so they all were looking like the steel, although they were made of cardboard, because he had pasted the cardboard on them, but he painted them and they were looking like the steel. There was an old brass helmet too, and the straps for holding it on were lost. But Mr. Kyothi patched it up and found some green ribbons with which several instead of straps. So when he wanted to tie it to the body, he found out that the stripes were lost. Then what did he do? Mr. Kyothi patched it up and found some green ribbons with served instead of straps, and those green ribbons, they serve the purpose of the straps. Then he held it up and felt very proud to think that his head would be adorned with so rare a piece of workmanship, and he was very happy that his head would be decorated. The head would be decorated with so rare piece of workmanship. So the person was very much excited to see all these things that were in his house, and he decided to go for the adventure, because he was a farmer and all the time he was busy in farming, and he also want to enjoy as his great grandfather were doing. They were the soldiers, you can say. The great grandfather was a soldier and he was doing all these things. He has done many things in the battle. He won the battle, and the armor was in his house. So he decided to use the armor, and he cleaned that up. He pasted board on that. He painted it silver, and then he tied it with the ribbon. And he also decorated his head with rare piece of workmanship. Now, next we will continue tomorrow. So today you read this page and underline the difficult words and write down the meaning of those words in the book so that you may understand the chapter. So it's bye for today.